Rochelle McDonald, and I'm here to talk with you today about why it is so hard to get going with decluttering your home and the steps you can take to get moving with removing the clutter from your life. So why is it so hard to get rid of the clutter? Maybe you get rid of everything, you've cleared off the surface, and now there's things all over it again. It's almost like water. Clutter will flow in to fill up that empty space that you just created for it. And it seems like it's a futile effort to try to get rid of that clutter. This is a very American problem that 75% or more families struggle with, trying to cut the clutter out of their lives. There's a lot of reasons why it is hard, and I've come up with 10 of them today that we're going to talk about, and maybe some strategies that you can use to overcome why it's so hard to get rid of clutter. So I just showed you a Bible verse there where God tells Adam to be fruitful and increase in number and to fill the earth and to subdue it. So there's a lot of information in the Bible about being prosperous, how you can prosper, how to be successful. I just wanted to show you this. I'm not picking on any one religion, but the human desire to accumulate wealth goes back a long time. It didn't just start with modern American culture. It's been around for a long time. It's baked into our culture, and it's also baked into our DNA. So the people who did not save enough food for the winter did not make it. The people who did save enough food for the winter are who we call today ancestors. So the fact that you do have a lot of clutter and you have a hard time parting with it, this is kind of baked into your very being. Being an American, being in Western culture in a capitalist society, and also being a human being that doesn't like to starve to death in the wintertime. These are all really legit reasons why we feel that discomfort or that pull when you think you're gonna get rid of something and you just can't. And keep hanging on to it, and then you get frustrated, you throw your hands up and like, why can't I get rid of this stuff? Well, it's baked in, so you kind of have to trick yourself a little bit, but we can get there. We can do a painless purge of clutter. But first we're going to talk about the 10 reasons today that why these are pain points. Not everybody's going to have the same pain point for getting rid of clutter. But these are 10 pain points that I've come up with that we can address today to see if we can get you started in your journey to clutter freedom. So reason number 1, ancient brains, modern world. In our world today, we have a lot more money and a lot more abundance than we've ever experienced in all of human history. Add on top of that, you've got cultural like marketing and TV commercials. The culture is telling you constantly, you need more stuff, buy more stuff. You hear phrases like greed is good, keeping up with the Joneses, he with the most toys wins. We internalize these things. And after we internalize these phrases, we end up doing things like buying stuff we don't need because it feels good, it makes us feel important. We don't really have a way to get rid of that stuff though once we've gotten it. So like there's a ritual to shopping. You understand how it is. You get in the car, you park the car, you grab your coupons, you go in, maybe you have a basket, maybe you're shopping at a boutique and you're just carrying a little shopping bag. You gather your items, the cashier checks them out, you bring them home, you have a way of putting them away and putting away your bag. But what do you do when you're done with it? We don't really have a ritual surrounding how to get rid of our objects. And our ancient brain didn't have to develop these rituals because it wasn't necessary. We would consume literally everything until it fell apart. You hear about people saying how everything is disposable today. Back in the old days, people used to make things work. Well, that was very true, but that's because stuff wasn't cheap and abundant. You couldn't walk into Walmart tomorrow and spend $25 and get place settings for $6. It's really easy to buy these things, and it hasn't always been so. Second reason why it's hard to get rid of clutter is that we accumulate items that we use as identifiers. So how you dress, what you put in your home, what you drive, what you wear. Are you wearing jewelry? What kind of phone do you use? What kind of computer do you use? These are all things that we're internalizing into our own personalities. And when we have extras of those things, it's hard for us to think about getting rid of it because we see that as part of our personality. So that's another reason why it's hard to get rid of clutter, especially if it's an object that you really liked, but it's just not working for you anymore. Say a Letterman jacket, for instance. Something along those lines. Or in my case, hair scrunchies. Yeah, don't really need those anymore. The third reason why it's hard to get rid of stuff is because in a way there's like this subtext message in American culture now that poverty is a moral failing. Why does that make it hard to get rid of your clutter? If you see your clutter as valuable objects that you spent your money on, you might visualize getting the clutter out of the house as actually removing your wealth from your life. And you might be internalizing the poverty as a moral failing message that you're getting from the media. And that's why it doesn't feel good to get rid of stuff, especially if you paid a lot of money for it or you found the item aspirational. I'll get into aspirational items in just a moment. But yeah, we identify with our objects, and getting rid of our objects, we feel like we're getting rid of a piece of our identity. Fourth reason why it's hard to get rid of our clutter: you're caretaking of other people's stuff. So maybe an adult child moved away to college and their bedroom furniture and their toys are still occupying that bedroom right now. It's not really yours, but they've abandoned their objects to you. You may have even asked them to come and collect their objects or to clean it out or to figure out what they want to do with their stuff. And they're like, yeah, whatever, you can take care of it. So that leaves us in a place that we can't really make a decision on how to move forward because the objects aren't technically ours. At the same time, they kind of are. So that's another reason why it's hard to remove that kind of clutter, the other people's stuff from your house. Number 5, why it's hard to get rid of clutter. Reason number 5 is the ownership bias. An ownership bias is when an object is perceived as being more valuable simply because it belongs to you. So how I can use an example to show you what this looks like. Have you ever gone to a garage sale and you see an item that looked like it was in pretty good shape and you might even be interested in picking it up, and then you ask the owner what the price is and he tells you something that you think is completely outrageous, or possibly that you could even go and buy a brand new identical item for equal or lesser price, and you wonder, what are you thinking? That's ownership bias. That owner of the object at the garage sale thought his item was worth a lot more because it belonged to him. Now, if you'd asked him the value of an identical item that belonged to somebody else, he would probably give you a more reasonable price as to what the value of the item is. But because the item is his, he cannot be reasonable. He's biased. He sees it as being more valuable, so the price is higher. That's the ownership bias. Ownership bias makes it hard to get rid of your object because you're perceiving your objects and your clutter as being more valuable than what they actually are. Number 6, loss aversion. People are very averse to loss. Just look at what happened the last time the stock market dropped. People freak out when they feel like they're losing something. Getting rid of clutter triggers that feeling of loss aversion, especially if you're recognizing that you had spent a lot of money on items that later became clutter. Loss aversion is a real barrier to getting clutter out of the house. And it's a real thing. I mean, if you think about it, would you work harder to make an extra $100 or to protect $100 from getting stolen from you? Which would feel worse, if you didn't get the $100 that you thought you were going to earn, or if you had $100 stolen? The stolen money, obviously, you're gonna work harder to protect what you already have. It hurts a lot more when somebody takes your thing than if you don't get something that you may or may not have had coming to you in the first place. This is loss aversion, and people will work to protect their wealth, their stuff. Loss aversion is a barrier to moving forward with clearing the clutter because you're not identifying what is an actual useful object and what is actually clutter. Loss aversion kicks in and you decide to keep everything and maybe even pay for a storage unit so that you can continue to keep your items. Reason number 7 why it is hard to clear clutter. You worry that you're going to get rid of some things and suddenly you find a use for that object. I should tell you right now, stop worrying about it because it's totally going to happen. You're going to get rid of something and 3 weeks later, you're going to be looking for an opportunity to use that item. It's going to be top of mind. You're going to think to yourself, man, I really should have kept that hibachi grill because maybe one day I might decide to start barbecuing on my boat that I don't own yet. The example that I like to use is like a bonnet hairdryer. You're hanging onto this bonnet hairdryer because you think it might come in useful someday. Maybe you're going to have multiple people who need to get ready for a big event, and luckily, to the rescue, you show up with a bonnet hairdryer because somebody forgot to pack theirs. Chances of something like that happening? Maybe. But what if you didn't have the bonnet hairdryer and somebody needed to get their hair done? Perhaps they would call the hotel desk to see if they had a blow dryer. Maybe they would go to a salon. There will be other ways that the problem can be resolved without the object that you just got rid of, that you just donated to charity. But people do worry about that. They worry, I'm going to get rid of this, but then what if I need it? What if I find a use for it later? The universe is going to make you think about that, actually. I know this isn't very encouraging, but I want to come back to the abundance that we live in right now. Even if it was the case that you did find a reason 2 or 3 years from now why you would have needed that bonnet hairdryer, it doesn't matter because there are alternatives. And hanging on to it is taking up space. It's taking up space in your home and it's taking up space in your mind. Getting rid of it, you end up with more peace and more freedom. And you can just address what you need when you need it at the time. 99.99% of the time, you will be able to get by just fine without that object that you got rid of. It'll be fine. The 8th reason why it's hard to declutter is you own aspirational objects. And what I mean by aspirational objects, it could be something as simple as, one day I'm gonna fit into those clothes. It's kind of an aspirational object. Other aspirational objects are abandoned hobbies. So maybe you have a set of golf clubs. You were gonna go golfing every week with the girls, but you just never really got around to it and you didn't find golf all that interesting, but you spent a lot of money on those objects. And maybe one day you'll go back and you'll take those golf clubs out and you'll play again. So these are aspirational objects. And they are hard to get rid of because we look at getting rid of that thing. Sometimes we see ourselves as failures. It's like, oh, I was going to work out and I bought this treadmill because I was going to work out and now it's just collecting dust in my garage. The treadmill is an aspirational object. So it is good to get rid of the aspirational objects because you will clear out your space and you will find more peace and freedom and relaxation and you won't be stressed out anymore. But getting there is difficult. I totally get that. I totally get that getting rid of the aspirational objects is not easy. That's why they're on the list. The 9th impediment to getting clutter out of our lives, I call it decision fatigue. From the moment you wake up, you start making decisions. What am I gonna have for breakfast? What am I gonna wear today? Did I walk the dog? Where are we going to walk? Do I have to buy gas? Where am I gonna buy gas? I have to go to the grocery store. What are we gonna have for dinner? Did the kids clean up their bedrooms? You know, decision, decision, decision. You have constant questions that you're asking yourself all day long. You tell yourself, when I get home tonight, after I put the kids to bed, I'm gonna try to clean out that closet. By the time you get to that point, you have made so many decisions in your day, your mind's just out of bandwidth to continue making decisions. You open up the closet and you just kind of stare at it like a deer in the headlights, and you just don't know what to do. You open up the closet and you're just staring at it because you don't know where to begin. You can't think about where to start. You just get completely paralyzed. You get frustrated and then you close the door and you're like, can't do it today, can't do it. And you're right, you are fatigued. You've got decision fatigue. When you're going to attack those projects, you need to be well rested, energized, and have a plan. Have a start time, have an end time, so that way you don't get to that decision fatigue point. This is very important when decluttering. Make sure you're ready. You've got the energy, you've got the plan, and you're ready to move forward. Reason number 10, and this is the hardest one. I'm not gonna lie to you. This is the hardest one, why people have a hard time getting rid of their clutter. And it's because the objects are too emotionally hot to touch. Sometimes in a very literal fashion. It's like you have a box of items, say you had a very acrimonious divorce and you've still got items left over from that time in your life. They're sitting in a storage unit. You've got them stacked up in the back of your garage. You know you need to go through these items. Maybe you've even moved on. You have a new spouse now. You have a new life. You know, all of that's behind you. But the thought of opening that box and confronting that very painful time in your life again is too much. So I totally get it. You know, you avoid getting rid of the clutter because it is just too much to take on. So there are ways that we can get you there so that way you can handle the emotionally hot objects and clear them out of your life, or treasure the ones that you want to keep. Absolutely. You know, maybe you'll find something that brings you comfort in those items, but if you can't bear to look at them right now, it's not going to go anywhere. It's a huge impediment to getting rid of clutter. We can get there though. So you combine all these things together in a world where we have dollar stores and Costco's and Amazon 2-day delivery. Our houses are just full of stuff. When I declutter my home, and it is a process, by the way, you have to continue doing this. It's a lifestyle change to become decluttered. But the first time is the hardest. It just gets easier after that. You finally get a pattern. You finally learn how to live a clutter-free lifestyle. Think of it this way. It is the luxury of less. The more stuff you have, the more stuff you have to think about, the more stuff you have to deal with. You have to figure out where you're going to put your stuff. When somebody brings the stuff out of the closet and leaves it somewhere else, you have to figure out how to pack it all back in again. If you have less stuff, you have less obligations, and you have an open space, and you have more time, and you have more freedom, and you have more mental bandwidth. I also... It's time to walk the dog. If you would like to schedule a free 30-minute phone consultation to get started on your journey to a clutter-free life, contact me at the link provided below. Subscribe to this channel and come back and visit regularly. If you have a particular clutter question that you would like me to address in a future video, go ahead and leave it in a comment down below and subscribe, and I will do my best to try to answer all of the questions via video format. Remember, less is luxury, the luxury of less. Have a great day. Bye.